Well, hello everybody. Hello, hello. How you doing? Good, good. You know, I've got these formal remarks, but since this is a particularly global crowd and this is the Global Goals event, I thought I might try something out. So I think I'm going to start out here by doing a roll call of countries. So let's see if we can do this. So students or parents, companions, let's start calling out some country names and let's see how much of the globe is represented in this room. Someone call out a country. US. Of course the US starts out first. Who else? All right. All right. Obviously I need to have a system here. Raise your hand and I'll call on you. Yes, sir. Bermuda. Who's next? Yes. Say again. Peru. All right. Who's next? Yes. India. Greece. Yes. Ireland. In the back. Argentina. Over there. Japan. Yes. Singapore. Anybody else? Yes. Austria. Last call for countries. Switzerland. Awesome. Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for our global crowd. This is the Global Goals event. Happy Global Entrepreneurship Week. Again, I'm Dr. J.D. LaRocque, Nifty's president and CEO, and we're so happy and pleased to be able to gather with you here again this year, especially pleased to be back in person after 3 years of doing this event virtually. Let me start by extending profound thanks to our partners and sponsors who have made this evening possible. First of all, our many friends at EY who have given us this fantastic facility to be in. Have you ever been in such a place? This is great. Thank you so much. There's nothing like a setting like this where you can see the expanse of a global city to celebrate such a global event. We also want to thank Aramco, the Citi Foundation, and the MetLife Foundation, along with Santander, for making this event possible. This annual panel conversation was born out of Nifty's World Series of Innovation program, in which leading global companies propose challenges aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And young people around the world, such as you, use their entrepreneurial mindsets to come up with innovative solutions around those challenges. Nifty's desire to deepen our connection to the UN Sustainable Development Goals led us to decide to start this celebration of Global Entrepreneurship Week every year by convening Nifty youth, nonprofits, and philanthropy to advance a dialogue around social entrepreneurship solutions. And if there's one thing I know about Nifty students in the US and around the world, social entrepreneurship and using entrepreneurship to solve the world's most pressing problems is something that so many of you care about. And if I can tell you something, you're much better at proposing good solutions than we are, who are kind of better at creating the problems. So thank you. We need you to keep doing it. This event is a favorite of mine because the conversation tends to be very organic as we move to the panel. There are so many great ideas brought up in this 1 hour, and I hope it's really going to serve as a jumping off point for all of us to continue putting our actions alongside the dialogue to make the impact that we are all aiming for. Before we get to the heart of the conversation, let us learn a little bit more, though, about the World Series of Innovation and the challenges our students are taking on when they participate.
Biodiversity, sustainable cities and communities, economic growth, peace and justice, climate action, health and well-being. These are some of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. 17 global objectives focused on finding solutions to the world's most pressing problems in order to build a more inclusive and sustainable society. The Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, or NIFTY, through its World Series of Innovation, asks young people aged 11 to 24 to work toward advancing the Sustainable Development Goals by selecting a sponsored challenge to solve. Through their creativity, initiative, and passion for change, these students utilize the power of the entrepreneurial mindset to create a lasting impact on the world around them. There are 6 challenges offered through the 2023 Nifty World Series of Innovation, which launched in September. Let's hear from some of last year's WSI winners about the solutions they came up with and why these sustainable development goals are important to them.
What do you have to do to get water? Turn on your tap? The story for 3 billion people worldwide is very different. These people suffer from water scarcity. We set out to answer these questions with a better kitchen sink, the solution the people of Zuleika need.
Imagine having to sleep on the floor of a crowded call center, not being able to see your family for months and working 16-hour days. That's reality for millions of people across the world. They have to commute from small villages, and if you can't commute, you can't work. People-Volt is the answer.
FlexCharge, the world's first battery that doesn't use rare earth metals and offers a more sustainable and environmentally friendly solution for energy needs.
The construction materials industry is not sustainable enough. Current brick production and insulation use has affected the lives of billions worldwide due to its impact on climate change, air quality, and soil erosion. Seaweed Solutions offers a new, green, lean way to build.
20% of the global population lives with a form of hearing loss, making this issue as prevalent as diabetes. However, proper combinations have not yet been made to promote digital, Skyward education, inclusivity for the hard of hearing community. Speech-to-sight software takes speech from short videos and audio in any language and converts it into signs like English or American Sign Language.
Paint is one of the most toxic products in your home, and when not properly disposed of, it can evaporate or sink in the ground soil, contaminating drinking water. When Hurricane Ian hit Florida last year, entire buildings were swept away, and along with it, paint. Introducing Van Green, a company that creates interior and exterior eco-friendly paint, accessible and affordable for everyone.
Have you ever wondered what if we could turn waste into valuable resources? I'm Diamond. Here's how it works. You are close to the microbial cell or fuel cell where bacteria break down organic matter and produce electrical energy.
Given the creativity of our previous finalists, we can't wait to see what kinds of sustainable solutions the world's youth will create to address the 2023 WSI challenges, which are online now. Visit innovation.nifty.com to find out more.
Thank you. You know, one thing I truly appreciate about the World Series of Innovation is that it brings together not just students from many, many different countries, several dozen different countries, as a matter of fact, competing with solutions for these different sustainable development goals. But as you saw, the age range of the competitors, the participants, is really wide too. And another thing I've learned about NIFTY over my 4 years leading the organization is that you don't have to be an advanced student to have a really great idea. And sometimes some of our younger students present some of the most sophisticated ideas, including those that you saw here. So now that you have a little insight into what makes our young entrepreneurs excited to tackle global challenges, let's get into our discussion with our panelists about UN Sustainable Development Goal 3. Let's welcome them. Thank you. It was on the video. Maybe some of you know it inherently, but what's this is the teacher in me coming out. What is Development Goal 3? Does anyone?
Health and well-being.
Oh, you're not supposed to answer, seriously. No, she's right. Is this on? There we go. Yes. Health and well-being. And so we're going to have a conversation about that. So, you know, we have a large world of 8 billion people and counting, and it's rapidly changing. And so the question of whether we can successfully accomplish a goal to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all is not a simple question to answer, but it is one that is well worth considering. Humankind struggles to balance individual health and wellness with that of the common good. And in fact, as we see all too clearly in the current age, global events around the world are so physically and mentally demanding that they can affect our performance and productivity, even if we're not directly involved in them. It's a stressful world out there right now, and that takes its toll on health and healthy lives. Compounding that question are global concerns such as inequitable access to medical advances, unaffordable health care, and of course the toll and task of caring for an aging population globally. So, we are joined today by three fantastic panelists, each representing varying expertise, interests, and perspectives. And at the heart of our discussion, we're going to explore ways that both corporate entities and entrepreneurs of all ages can and are making an impact on the health and well-being of people and communities they work with and serve. So before I get into the questions, though, let me ask each panelist to just introduce themselves. Please say your name and who you represent, maybe a little bit more about yourself. Please, Frank, go ahead.
Sure. I'm Frank Giampetro. I have a really cool role at EY, at Ernst & Young, as our America's Chief Wellbeing Officer. I'm excited to talk to you more about that as we have our conversation.
Let's give Frank a hand.
So I'm Jeanette Pierre. I am a mental health advocate. My sister attempted suicide in 2015, and after her recovery, she and I started an organization to reach out to high-achieving individuals and help them work through mental health issues and continue to do their work in a way that is efficient, but also take care of themselves.
Let's give JP a hand. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Aditya Sharma. I'm from India, and I'm currently a student at Virginia Tech. I was part of the team that won last year's Sustainable Development Goal 3 Challenge, and I'm really, really excited to be here and have this conversation.
Let's give them a warm welcome. All right. So let me start with a question for each of you to answer briefly. Again, Sustainable Development Goal 3 is about ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all. So please tell us in your own words, what does that mean to you, number one? And number two, what steps are being taken or should be taken in your workplace or community or school to help accomplish this goal? Frank, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, I get to spend a lot of time thinking about this since it's really the biggest aspect of my job. And when we think about well-being, we think about kind of 4 pillars. So there's a thing we immediately always think about, which is our physical well-being, and that's both our health and our safety and security. And I think when the UN thinks about it, they tend to focus heavily on that for obvious reasons, because in a lot of places around the world, we've got to kind of level up to that. But there are really other 3 components of well-being. One is financial well-being, and I think in many parts of the world, the physical and financial well-being go hand in hand. And we think about entrepreneurship and the solutions. We'll probably get into some of that. And then there's the mental and emotional side, which I think JD, you said is harder and harder to get to. And really, it's a place where we're trending down instead of up. And then last is what we refer to a lot of times as social well-being. That connectedness we all have with each other as part of a society. When we think about that at the firm, we really kind of think about 3 ways that we can impact that. First is, we have 90,000 employees. So we actually, first and foremost, think about the care of our own folks and what are we doing to create well-being for those people. But we want to do a lot more than that. We also want to be, serving the communities that we operate in. So through our EY Foundation and our giving program, we're able to have impact on those communities that are underserved and have the ability to help those communities from a well-being perspective. And then the last thing, and a couple of our folks here are part of this, is through what we call our Ripples program, which is our corporate social responsibility, where we give people avenues to go, our employees to go and support their local communities and really try to improve the well-being of those communities, which has this dual fold of doing great in the world, but giving that feeling we all get when we go and do that. So it actually, we actually know that it increases the well-being of our own people. So probably more than you wanted already.
No,
JD,
no,
but
multifaceted. And I was just having a conversation today where somebody was making the point that people themselves benefit spiritually and mentally when they give, when they help others.
Exactly.
JP, how would you enrich the definition of health and well-being?
Kind of to piggyback off of some of the things that Frank said, a lot of well-being is really taking care of yourself first. In order to take care of the things that you all want to take care of. You all obviously all are here because you have big hearts, you want to make an impact, you want to make a change and a difference, but you all have to make sure that you're taken care of so that you can lead your team and lead the charge that it's going to take in order to accomplish some of the goals that you all have. So I think that a lot of what the health and well-being is starting inside, creating good energy, finding ways to make that good energy build some momentum, and then go out and share it. I think that's probably the best way to connect all the dots there for you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Aditya, what would you like to add?
Right. So, I mean, my grandfather always says health is wealth, and I feel like you can't really enjoy anything if you're not healthy, whether that's physical health or mental health. You know, to do anything or to enjoy anything, to do things you love, you need to be healthy, and it's really important to make sure that, like you said, you know, to take care of yourself both from the inside. And like you said, helping others can also help you. It's important to do what you like, but so that you're happy, and then so that you take care of yourself mentally, to impact others, you know, because that also helps you feel a sense of fulfillment on the inside. And if you're not physically healthy, there's a lot less you can do. So your physical health directly impacts your mental health and vice versa. So I think it's really important to, like you said, health is a very multifaceted term. So it's important to cover all bases and really make sure that you're looking out for yourself.
You know, I just saw something on Facebook yesterday that resonates. It was a caption that said, people have all kinds of problems until you have a health problem. Then you just have one problem. Yeah, so very well said, very well said. JP, let's go back to you. You know, at Nifty, we talk a lot about the entrepreneurial mindset, different domains that are very important to cultivate so that young people and adults can become successful entrepreneurs. I know that you talk about the positive mindset as it relates to health and well-being. Define that for us and let us know, you know, why is that so important in your view?
So, as you all know, you guys are scientific minds here. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? It just changes. So your energy inside of yourself, if it's negative, if it's down, if it's depressed, it creates a wall for you. You can't think. You all are probably very creative minds. You can't tap into your creativity. You can't develop the things that you want if you guys get stuck, if your energy is stuck. So you have to find ways to create a positive energy mindset for yourselves. You have to find ways that you can get that negative energy out. And, you know, like the gentlemen both are here saying right now is, you know, the physical and the mental well-being are one. So sometimes going to the gym, going to yoga, even just verbally talking, venting is a real thing. Sometimes you don't need to keep that energy inside of yourself. You need to let it out. Even if you're not even waiting for feedback from who it is you're speaking to, sometimes hearing yourself to process the information is enough for you guys to release some of that negative energy and build the positive momentum that you all need in order to do the wonderful work that you all have planned to do. So I don't even know if I answered the question.
You absolutely did.
I went down like a little rabbit hole.
No, that was great. And just check to see if your mic is on. Is that shown green? Oh, it is. Okay, very good.
Am I very quiet?
No, just checking.
Okay.
Thank you. I mean, Frank, you do this for a living. Do you also think about the positive mindset in thinking about how EY conceives of well-being overall?
Oh yeah, it's huge. You know, we talk a lot about sort of the culture that we're creating. When we kind of talk about well-being, we sort of talk about it at the individual level, and then we talk about it sort of in the teams we operate in, and then at a firm level as well. And part of that is because it's really hard to have that positivity at the individual level if you're operating in an environment where that's not really fostered and cultivated on a regular basis. So it's this idea about, you know, we all want to be healthy fish. We also have to swim in a healthy pond. And so what are we doing to treat the fish but treat the pond at the same time?
Aditya, you're a newly minted first-year university student, which is a transition that's often very stressful. You know, we have a lot of people here, I think, who are about to undergo that transition from secondary school to tertiary education before long. Do you have any advice on how you maintain a positive mindset?
Right. So, I mean, like you said, venting is a very real thing. When I came to Virginia Tech, I think the biggest, because I was having a great time, but I feel like venting both in terms of, you know, stuff you like and stuff you don't like. So all of my venting was international. I was calling my friends back in India. Either they were staying up late from me or I was staying up late just to, because I feel like, you know, when there's something you really, because I was really enjoying Virginia Tech, but I felt like I enjoyed it more when I had someone to talk to it about, someone I could just tell all these cool things were happening to me. And I did. I used to call my friends late at night. But then similarly, whenever I've been going through something that, you know, that's been taxing me, it always makes me feel better to just talk to someone. So venting, very real thing, and something that I mean, at least for me, has definitely helped me out a lot. And you know, my friends fortunately have always been there to listen to their vents, and I've been there to listen to theirs as well. And it can be, you know, it can be really helpful a lot of times.
I'm gonna turn to my staff in the audience here and see how well they know me, and see if they can identify what I do to maintain a positive mindset. You've heard me do it on many an all-staff meeting. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. What? Dad jokes. Yes. Indeed. It maintains a positive mindset for me. I don't know about my team. Don't worry, I'm not gonna.
JD, can we get a quick dad joke?
Oh yeah.
On the fly.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to that because I need a little time to select a good one.
Help me hold him to it, guys.
All right. Aditya, let me go back to you because we would love to hear more about your business that you worked on and developed and actually presented to our national board, your winning entry with your partner in the World Series of Innovation. So you competed last year with an idea to monitor adulterated milk concentrations in underdeveloped communities in India. So MADS is your business idea, and that stands for?
The Milk Adulteration Detection System.
Okay, so tell everybody.
That would be a cool way to put it.
Tell everybody all about your business while I think of a dad joke.
Right. So India is the world's largest dairy industry. You know, there's a lot of milk in that country, and one of the biggest problems that industry faces is adulteration. Estimates show that about 68% of all milk in India is adulterated. So it's a big problem. And one of the most dangerous adulterants that is present in milk is something called urea. Now, urea is added to milk to increase its whiteness and to fake its protein content, increase its consistency. And it's not very good for you. It can lead to serious kidney problems, cancers, acidity, ulcers. It's in excess, it can be really bad for the human body. And records that both our findings and findings done by the Food Authority Board in India showed that urea levels in milk were several magnitudes over the permitted amount. So this was a big problem. And the issue is that to detect urea in milk, you either need very, very expensive equipment or like trained professionals in laboratory settings, which you can't really implement everywhere, especially at an industry the scale of the dairy industry that is in India. So we came up with MADS, which was a detection system for urea. We used my teammate Advay and I. We used an ultrasonic light and microscope approach, and we wrote our own image processing algorithm. And we scanned urea crystals at a microscopic level. And then we accumulated all of that data, and we were able to present a reasonably effective and efficient output in a matter of a couple minutes. And our system cost significantly lesser than current methods. We used like a heater from an old hair dryer we had. We used a cheap microscope we got of Amazon. We wrote our own code, and we were able to come up with a reasonably effective system. We went and tested it, and we were able to get very, very accurate results. I think we had an error margin of about 0.03%, which was quite good. And we were able to detect urea in the parts per million, which is very important. And our hope is to really scale that project up. We're trying to apply for a patent right now, and to really get that all across milk distributors in India, so that we can monitor the urea levels in milk and ensure that people's health isn't affected by something they consume without knowing, the risk it could really pose to their health.
That's really fantastic. Yeah, that's absolutely a round of applause for that. I'm curious to raise your hand if in your country, maybe not necessarily where you exactly live, but in your country as a whole, issues of food safety and safety of key products is something that comes up in the news, a problem in society. Raise your hand if I see some heads. Yeah, so you really have crafted a global solution.
Yep.
And by the way, there's a fantastic book that I commend all entrepreneurs to read. It came out maybe about 10 years ago. It's by actually an Indian entrepreneur named, he goes by VG. It's Vijay Govindarajan, and it's called Reverse Innovation. And the way you described how you put your MAD system together, using parts you could find, in order to create an affordable yet scalable innovation is exactly the methodology that he talks about as what savvy entrepreneurs do when they don't have access to capital necessarily. They're kind of bootstrapping solutions. So bravo to you, because you've on your own, you adopted a technique that has been acclaimed the world over for promoting entrepreneurship in different settings.
Right, thank you. I mean, that was the objective. We were trying to make something that was really, really cost effective, because that was the main challenge why we couldn't really detect urea across the dairy industry in India. So we were kind of limited by our mission, and we really had to make the most of what we were using. So all of our parts were really purposeful, and we made sure to cut costs everywhere we could.
Very good. So Frank, back to you. On LinkedIn, you describe yourself as a well-being champion, human-centric leader, and reimaginer of the future of work. And that's a really wonderful way to conceive of yourself. So,
what are you trying to say, JD?
You've got a healthy self-concept, and it's outwardly directed to a world-serving cause. Well done there. So I have a multi-layered question for you, since you've got a multi-layered self-description. How do you ensure that employees are taking care of their own health as well as the health of the business? We already touched on this issue of self-care being an important component of well-being. And is the well-being of employees the most important aspect of what you do as a chief well-being officer, or is it something else? So please.
Yeah, definitely. I'll answer the second one first. Absolutely. I mean, it's such a cool opportunity to get to think about this on a regular basis, is sort of what I do day in and day out. And to kind of answer your first question, maybe I'll give you 3 quick principles that we sort of live by in our well-being space that sort of frame our focus areas. So one thing we think about is well-being is a very personal journey. We're all incredibly different, and therefore we have different needs, and we have different things that are going to work for us. So part of what we're always thinking about is, what are those set of diverse needs, and are we providing the right benefits, the right programs, the right tools to everybody to kind of meet every single person in the workforce where they're at with that? So that's a big part of that. But I mentioned earlier about sort of like working together on it. So we have another principle, which is well-being is a team sport. So we used to think about this only on the personal journey side of it. Like, I'm going to make sure everybody's got what they need. And that was good, but not good enough. What we're really making progress now is starting to work on this stuff together, and really starting to shape the culture and the norms and the behaviors of how we operate day in and day out. And really, as we've done that, it's made a dramatic shift. And when we talk about like norms and behaviors, they're little things, right? It's like, hey, what are you doing that might be bad for your well-being that you don't even know about? So we're trying to bring some data and science to our teams and say, hey, we all live in a multitasking world where we're trying to do 6 things at once, and we think because we're so busy that we have to do 6 things at once. Turns out it's super bad for our brains, like really bad for our brains, and we're less productive. So we start to educate people, put down the phone, don't check the chat, stay focused on the thing you're focused on. You're going to be more productive, and your brain's going to feel better at the end of the day, right? So we're trying to bring sort of that into the way that we work day in and day out. And then the last thing, which is kind of really cool, is the last principle is this idea of, it's very similar to the health is wealth. We say well-being is a business imperative. Like, we don't think about, do we want to do what's right for the business or do what's right for the well-being of our people? We've gotten to the place now where we're like, we're going to be successful because of the well-being of our people. Those aren't in conflict with one another. They're perfectly aligned with one another. And that really allows us to think about what are we doing to continue to kind of bring it into how we lead, how we measure people, how we work through everything on a regular basis. So that's sort of how we think about it.
Yeah. Do you find, going back to what you said about everybody working on different technological platforms, and they're on their phone, they're on their, the Microsoft Teams chat or whatever system, they're on the Zoom, they're texting. Do people listen to your advice to just work with one thing at a time?
Well, listen, myself included, we're all on that journey, right? So what's interesting is we have a natural group of intellectually curious people, a lot like yourselves, right? So if you show up and say, don't do that, they kind of roll their eyes and be like, okay, thanks, Frank. But when you bring data and science to it and you sort of educate them, they lean in and because they're curious and they want to know more about that, right? So, what does anybody think? What do you think in the U.S., because it's a U.S.-centric study, our average attention span was 20 years ago? And here, I'll give you how you measure attention span. Multiple screens up at an activity that you're assigned to do. How long would an average person stay on the screen of their task before they went and checked another screen 20 years ago? Anybody want to guess? It was 2.5 minutes.
20 years ago.
20 years ago. 2.5 minutes before they could focus on one thing before they went to something else. Anybody want to guess what it is now? 10 seconds. It's 47 seconds. Wow. One more stat, and then we get other things.
Please.
But this is kind of so. It's super scary. A day of multitasking, which is really something, the technical term is context switching. It turns out about 4% of humans can multitask. The other 96% of humans switch back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you do that for a day. Anybody know how much it lowers your IQ at the end of the day? 15 points. Ooh. Put it in perspective, if you stayed awake for 24 hours, your IQ would be about 10 points lower. If you were high, your IQ would be 10 points lower. So it's actually worse a day of multitasking for your IQ. So those are the kinds of conversations we get in with people, and then they're like, okay, you got my attention.
Yeah.
How do we address it, and how do we do things differently?
Okay, so moment of truth for the audience, particularly our students. Raise your hand if you typically work with a couple platforms at a time. You switch back and forth. Be honest. It's nothing morally wrong about it. It's just how it is today. So now you have some evidence that at least take a break from that sometimes. Yes, I've got a 12-year-old at home, and my wife and I are always
it's a constant struggle
saying that. Yeah, because like the TV will be on. She'll be on the laptop, and then she'll be group chatting. I'm like, what exactly are you doing right now? It's got 3 options. But JP, back to you. I mean, Frank's fundamental point, is that oftentimes it's the simple strategies that are really the most important, and we tend to complicate this whole area, don't we? So what are some other very fundamental things that you would recommend for people to maintain and enhance their sense of health and well-being?
So as entrepreneurs, for you guys in particular, and I know budgets may not be expansive right now, you guys are in the beginning stages, starting up, but as you build your business plan out, you need to build in strategies and time, just like you would for meetings, just like you would financially, to do things for your wellness. Make that time to go to the gym. Make that time to go to therapy. Make that time to meet with a friend. Community is extremely important. And talking to people who have an understanding of you, people who are and on similar journeys, so that you don't feel like you're burdening anybody, but you feel very relatable. Understanding that there's other people who are going through similar struggles with you is extremely important on your journey. When you feel like the weight of the world on your shoulders and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get this done, I have to save the world, I have employees, I have all of this stuff, and you feel like you're the only one that has that going on, it's extremely isolating, and that's where the trouble really comes in. When you feel isolated in your mental struggles, that's when the downturn becomes a rabbit hole, and it's just really hard to climb out of. The sooner that you prioritize, like Frank was saying, as a business strategy, health and well-being in a way that is meaningful and efficient for you all to do small things that will make a difference for you, and to put those in your schedule, to put those in your financial budget, the more efficient you're going to be when it is time for you to lock in, like JD was saying, and not be like all over the place trying to do a million things like an octopus, because we're not octopi, we're people. So I think that is really like, just building it into the business model is really the first step, and will really save you a lot of trouble on the back end, for sure.
You mentioned the concept of isolation. I actually would like you to extend your comment on that theme, because, one maybe not so great and kind of challenging thing about entrepreneurship is that it can be a very isolating endeavor. When you're starting out as an entrepreneur, when you're developing your concept, when you're developing your business, most people start out just by themselves, one person. I mean, let me see a show of hands. How many of you here working on your business ideas didn't work in a team, you worked mainly yourselves? Yeah, a number of hands came up. Yeah, and all, like you were saying, in that context, you're the CEO, but you're a company of one at the start. So you're taking on board all of the stresses and frustrations. Don't worry, there's lots of great things about entrepreneurship. I'm not trying to turn you off of it, not by any means. But it is something distinctive about the journey of an entrepreneur. What advice do you have for anyone who might find themselves particularly in a situation of isolation, where it's not so easy to have that network, have the friends to be able to reach out to? What do you do if you find that you are in a position of isolation? Can you still work on your own well-being?
You can still work on your own well-being. I think that the isolation really becomes a problem because your mind can begin to play tricks on you. You can feel so overwhelmed because you feel like you're the only one that's in this struggle. You're the only one that's doing it, and you're the only one that can figure it out and fix it. If you have an understanding, though, of that scientifically, that you know what's happening as it happens, and you don't have a community of people around you to help, but you've still found ways that you all individually may enjoy taking care of yourself, whether it's going to your favorite coffee shop, whether it's going to a yoga class, spending an hour at the gym, going to the sauna, getting a massage. There are things that you can still do to recharge and unwind. I assure you, although it feels heavy right now, if you leave your work on your desk for an extra hour every day, the end of the world is not coming. And you have to understand that. I know when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the forest, you can't see the trees because you're just in it, and you feel like you've got to get it done. Deadlines, and the deadlines are never going to stop. They're never going to run out because you all are high-achieving individuals. That's what you do. You have to give yourself a deadline for that massage. You have to give yourself a deadline for the gym. You have to give yourself a deadline for that coffee day. You have to create spaces that are just as important as marking off your space for, this pitch or raising that money or whatever it is that takes your business to function. If you're not there to help it function, and you're not there to help it function efficiently, your business is not going to happen at all.
And those solutions don't have to cost any money at all, right? I mean,
No.
You want to know two things that I do to relieve stress and keep things in perspective? Because I will say, Nifty is pretty much a remote organization. I am often not at the Nifty office. I am in my house running the company. I take a walk.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Those things you do.
Just stop and go walk around the block, and I listen to music. Those are two
100%.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to step away from it in order, and I apologize, JD, if I interrupted you. Sometimes you just literally have to walk away from the project, walk away from the stress in order to breathe. Because again, that energy, right, if you bottle it up in that tight space and you're claustrophobic, in your work, you're never going to be able to release it. So it's kind of like a bottle. I heard from my friend here, Ladaska. Actually, we were talking before, during the mixer portion of it, and she gave me a great example. She said it's like a soda bottle, right? Soda, no matter what, right? You buy a Coke, you know you have a Coke. But if you shake it up, right, it's fizzy, it's frustrated, right? I guess if you want to personify it. When you open it up, it explodes everywhere. Yeah. Was the Coke as efficiently consumed as you wanted it to be? When it's fizzy and it's shaken and it's all over the place, you lose half of the fluid, it's all over everything, now you've made a mess, now you're working twice as hard, and you get half the product, right? But if you just let it settle and sit for a second and slowly take the top off and breathe, then you get your whole Coke, you didn't make a mess, and you can work efficiently. So that's kind of how you have to think of your brain and your personal energy. You have to give it the time to just calm down so that you guys can get back to work in a way that's meaningful.
Aditya, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, you say efficiently, and I think I resonate with that, because whenever I've been working on something, there's always been times where I felt stuck, or like I felt like I'm not being very productive. And it always helps to have multiple things to do, even if it's not like doing something that's apparently, like going to a gym or going for a walk, listening to music that's taking care of itself. Even if it's just working on something else, I feel like if you always have multiple things to do, and not in a way where you're switching from them back and forth, but like if you've been focusing on one thing for a good time, I think it's always a good idea to switch between things, so you can really let that settle, so you're more productive. Because whenever I've been like hyper focused on one thing for a long period of time, the longer I'm working at it, the less productive I end up being. So the second I switch away and I start doing something else, whenever I come back to it, I'm hit with a flurry of ideas, and I know what to do, and I feel much better about doing it. So I get what you mean. I resonate with that.
Can you say some more about your process for developing MADS? And I wonder if you felt the stresses and frustrations as you were going through that particular project. Because you had a number of challenges that you were trying to address. You had obviously the overall problem that you were trying to solve, but there were a number of design challenges and hurdles that you had to address, some cost challenges. Were there stops and starts along the way? Were there points of frustration? Share this with our crowd of young entrepreneurs.
Right, definitely. It was like a 4-month process. We spent at least a month in ideation alone, just trying to think of what problem to solve. And the story of how we stumbled across MADS in of itself, it was a dinner table conversation that one of my dad's friends was over, and he was just talking about how he created dairy feed, and he was just talking about how people integrate urea and milk. And I was just curious, so I looked it up, and I was kind of horrified by the scale of the problem, which is what got me interested in it. And once we fixated that this is the problem we wanted to solve, we had several failures. We had many different ideas, and a lot of them kept failing over and over again. So that was really frustrating. But I think what really, really helped us throughout all of those failures is that we documented everything we did. So let's say we had one idea to detect urea and milk, and at the end of the day, it didn't work. It was obviously very frustrating that we spent an entire day developing this, and it was all for nothing. But when we wrote down everything that happened, it still felt that we produced something, and that our work, there was some value generated in what we did today. And I think that documentation is what helped us get to our final idea at the end, because it was like a combination of multiple steps. Initially we tried to see what milk would look like under a microscope, whether we could detect milk there. That failed. We weren't able to see anything. But we wrote down what we saw. So then later, when we were testing it with urea, we thought we could combine the two, and then we combined a bunch of steps like this. And that's how we came up with our final idea. So documenting it really helped, because even when you fail, there's always, learn from your mistakes. Everyone knows that. But when you really know what your mistakes were, it's still frustrating, but it's a lot less frustrating because you still feel like you did something. So I think documenting your entire progress is very important, and it really helps you stay focused and be more productive as you go on. Breaking the problem down into really, really small components is also very helpful, because again, we were able to do a lot more that way. If we were trying to look at a small aspect of it, we weren't always intimidated by the big picture, because there were a lot of challenges. But it's not a good idea to take on all of those challenges at the same time. So taking on those challenges one at a time, really breaking it down, piecing it together, at the end was a good way to go about it, and it helped deal with a lot of those frustrations, and again, it worked out at the end. So I think what we did is also all of the projects I worked on after I followed the same steps, and that's always helped me be successful.
I'm wondering, by a show of hands among our young entrepreneurs, who's used some of those strategies? Who has written down what has not worked, or remembered it? Yeah. And what about breaking the problem down, starting with one piece? Yeah, show of hands. Yeah. Pretty obvious solutions in some way. I mean, but really effective in your case.
Definitely.
Very good. I'm curious to ask you all a question, and again, let me get a show of hands from the audience. AI is very much in the news these days, and of course, it's AI-driven tools are quite natural to your generation. We're all using AI on a daily basis, but who is using GPT? And other tools like that to do various things? Raise your hands. Yeah, a bunch of you. Yep, very good. I am curious to get your senses of whether AI-driven tools can be useful to people in driving health and well-being. And I'll tell you why I asked the question. This past year, in the NIFTY competition, unsurprisingly, we began to see a number of students utilize AI either to do their business plans or as a basis for their business ideas. And in fact, in our Midwest region, in the Chicago area, there was one student who had an idea for an AI-powered chatbot that could be utilized to help people feel less isolated and to receive advice, kind of like a chatbot therapist, if you will, for people who couldn't afford or otherwise have access to therapy. Now, there might be pluses and minuses to that approach, so I'm curious to get your sense of that in particular, but also in general. This technology is becoming more and more a part of everything. Is it helpful for this thing, health and well-being? Frank, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you did a good way of framing it, because I think the answer is yes, but. So for people that aren't otherwise getting care, that could use care, it creates a very scalable solution, right? Therapy, in the way that we traditionally think about like mental health and seeing a therapist or even a coach, isn't necessarily available to everybody, and likely won't be available to everybody around the world in any time soon. But could we, through Gen AI, create a simulated experience of that where people are actually able to get really good advice and learn practices that they could put in place? Absolutely. So from that perspective, I'm really in favor of it. I do think it has its limitations in that it will give you the right answer when we get to that place, right? It'll probably be as right as a general therapist is right in terms of the advice they give you. But the interaction won't be the same. And I think the beauty of what we have today in the well-being space is the human component of it is as important as the advice. And so, yes, I think it's great because it's hugely scalable, but it's not going to likely have the same efficacy as what we have available to people today.
JP, what's your take on AI as it relates to health and well-being?
So let me talk about isolation real quick, and then I'll double back to AI. Isolation doesn't have to be literal. Like, you don't have to be in a closet in a corner by yourself. You can be in a room full of people. You can be, in a busy building, in a church, in a school, in a synagogue. You can be surrounded by a million people, but if you don't feel relatable, right? If you don't feel like anyone is actually understanding, or if you don't feel like you're being heard properly, you can be isolated. So when you take that to AI, I'm not sure, kind of like what Frank was saying, the words might be correct, like the diagnosis or the answer or the advice might be, textbook correct, but if you still don't necessarily feel that human connection, which is what so many of us need during times of mental crisis, then I think we may be missing the mark. I think AI is a helpful tool, but it's not the answer to everything. I still believe that, you know, connection will definitely still be like top tier.
We'll always need a human in the loop,
Yeah.
right? Yes, as they say.
Yeah, for
Aditya,
sure.
what's your take?
Right. So it's funny that you posed this question because just a couple of weeks ago, our ECE assignment was to ponder the same thing: how we can use AI. And like you said, the entire the entire gist of my essay was that AI is a tool, right? It's possibly the most powerful tool that we've ever come up with, but it's a tool at the end. It's not its own answer for anything, but it's a very, very powerful tool. And with a very, very powerful tool, you can do very, very powerful things. Now, when you're talking about healthcare, yes, AI can make a big difference, right? It already is. You can use artificial intelligence to detect patterns, which can help you identify people who are, let's say, going through problems, or identify solutions that are working, that are effective, how to make those solutions more efficient. So I think AI in of itself, because you can really apply it to any industry. So yes, for healthcare, I definitely think it's a very, very powerful tool that we can apply to healthcare and we can use to. You still need humans in the loop, yes, but humans are using. It's like you know, a hammer can drive a nail better than a fist can, but you need a hand to hold it. And an AI tool is probably better at coming up with, probably better at identifying problems or helping you, to create a path to identifying a solution. But you need the human touch to really implement that and fully understand it, give it context. So because AI can, really compute so much data and understand it far better than we possibly could, it's definitely a tool that I see being utilized in healthcare in a big way. So I think yes, AI definitely can make a big impact there.
I like the point you made there around it really has the opportunity to kind of elevate the human element of the process, right? If it's an end-to-end process, the human element can focus on things that are truly human, and then we can, let the Gen AI do the things that really are necessary today, but aren't necessarily value added in the process in the same way that are uniquely human.
Exactly. A more accurate way of thinking of AI becoming smarter and smarter is less Armageddon and more humans becoming more powerful and powerful because we have better and better tools to use.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the point where I tell my dad joke on this theme. So, what is ChatGPT's favorite snack? Chips.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah. They're all pretty bad. Yeah. They're all. But they secretly love them. Yeah. All right. This is why I do entrepreneurship and not comedy. We're gonna open it up to your questions and particularly for our young entrepreneurs, we have some real expertise on hand for you right now. You've already heard some great tips and tricks for how to continue to work on your businesses. So we'd love to hear your questions about entrepreneurship or health and well-being or any of the many topics we've covered so far in this conversation. Don't be shy. Who's got a question that they would like to ask? Yes, let's go right over here. Susan's coming over with the microphone. Please identify yourself.
My name is Ashton Chin. I'm 16 and I'm from Singapore. Could I ask a question for him?
Sure.
How old are you?
How am I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm having a lot of fun.
No, how old?
Oh, how old am I? I turned 18 in July.
Huh? 18? Wow.
Yeah, I'm 18.
Okay, that's pretty young. I thought you were a bit older, like 20.
No, I'm a freshman at college. I just started.
Wow.
Okay.
What's behind your question? You're impressed by Aditya's many achievements, yes?
Yeah, because of his many achievements, I was quite shocked at his young age.
Well, it just goes to show you can do it too. Entrepreneurship and genius does not have an age limit or an age floor. So I encourage you to keep going. Who else has got a question that they'd like to ask? Don't be shy.
We have 2 microphones, so either side.
The adults in the room can ask questions too. Please go ahead. Feel free. Help us out. Yes, up here in the second row. Thank you. Please, again, identify yourself.
Yeah, Steve Pontello, I'm at EY. First of all, Aditya, the way you articulate yourself and the solution to a problem you found is phenomenal. I mean,
Thank
you
you.
have a bright future. It made me think back. The solution I was trying to articulate when I was a senior was explaining report card grades to my parents. So, report card grades to my parents, no well. So, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago, I don't know if you saw it, about, it was US-centric. One of the main problems that emergency rooms are facing are being overwhelmed by children with mental health, depression issues. The question I have for you folks, and you touched on it a little bit with technology and AI, is do we think the world with increased use of technology, we're getting human interaction wrong, and is that leading to some of the problems with mental health that are increasing?
Yeah, JP, please. I think that you should feel that first.
So I have a whole dissertation on this, but I'm going to try to keep it pretty tight. Pretty tight. So I know a lot of you are rather young, but I'm going to speak to the grown-ups first, if that's okay. So the things that we had to go through coming up, if we didn't know how to spell a word, we had to go to the bookshelf and get a dictionary, flip the pages and look it up. If we wanted to find out something about George Washington, we had to go get the encyclopedia and flip the pages, or even worse, go to the library and do a decimal system, right? The whole thing.
People are like, what are these things you're talking about?
All of those activities, all of those steps were creating problem-solving tools for us, right? Like mentally, we were learning how to solve problems. Okay, I need to learn how to spell this word. I need to learn what it means. Go get the dictionary, look through it, write it down, take notes, right? The tangible of writing the notes. All of those things for us created connection with what we did. We understood that there's a starting point, there's something we want, and we have to go get it. Not to say that this generation doesn't have any work ethic. However, what has been taken from them are the necessary stick-to-itiveness, problem-solving skills. So they tend to be frustrated a lot quicker than we were. They don't know how to solve a problem that a computer cannot solve, right? Whereas like we didn't know how to go somewhere, we would open the map and find our way. Like literally, guys, we had.
Where you found somebody to ask. God
Or
forbid.
we'd pull over at a gas station. How do you get to Red Road? And then that's how we would have to do it. You all have grown up with cell phones in your hands, and so it's just like, hey Siri, hey Alexa. What that does for you on the front end is it's great technology. It's great assistance for simple information and things that you want to learn. What it took away from you is learning how to take the necessary steps to get somewhere. So when you have a real life problem, let's say you're on your entrepreneurial journey and you break up with your girlfriend. Now your heart's broken. Well, you've never been through something, right? So like you don't understand the steps to like solve the problem. You may actually think it's the end of the world when it's not. Versus, the manual way of doing things back in the day, we knew that if we had a problem, there were ways for us to find a solution, and it didn't have to do with Siri or Google or anything else. So I say all that to circle back, AI is great. However, I would find ways to challenge yourselves to take the long way when possible, because it's going to build the muscles necessary for you mentally and emotionally to get through things when times are extra hard, when things are challenging, when Siri and Google do not have the answer. You all will have the experience of knowing that if you just take a few extra steps and a little more time, that there in fact is a solution on the other side, and you figured it out, and you'll be proud of that, and you'll feel better about it, and it'll give you confidence for the next challenge that you find. Because if we rely too heavily on our technology, we will just lose the ability to deal with adversity. And that's what we're seeing with these kids in emergent mental health situations so much, is that they literally don't know how to solve things. they don't know how to get to the other side of things because they've just never had to.
Let's go to Aditya first.
Okay,
and
sorry
then-
about that. I'm done.
I feel like I'm obligated to defend my generation here, but
Go ahead.
I think
many in the room are waiting for you to do so.
I think, while I understand what you're saying, I think it's less that we don't know how to solve those problems, it's that we have different problems we need to solve, right? With changing times, challenges change, and with different challenges, we just have different ways to solve them. Also, as someone who's actively trying to get into robotics and getting a computer engineering degree, I think technology is the answer to most things. Like even especially in healthcare, like we already have robots that are performing surgery, right? Surgical robotics is a booming industry. The beautiful thing about robotics is you can apply it to anything really, mental health even. Elon Musk's company Neuralink, they're working on chips that they're putting into people's brains, and they think that they can help influence a lot of mental health with that, not just in terms of actively influencing brain cognition, but also just gathering data. And that's just robotics. That's cutting edge technology right now. So I think it's not that we don't know how to solve those problems, it's just we have different ways of solving them. Which I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think with technology we're getting human interaction wrong. I think human interaction is just changing. And I don't think anyone can really objectively decide whether it's changing for the better or the worse. There are definitely things that, at a certain level, are either becoming better or worse. But as a whole, I feel like just because something is changing doesn't mean it's bad, right? There's different challenges, there's different problems, so there's different way to tackle those. And I think from basically any industry, technology can help you solve those problems. Technology can help you overcome those challenges, and I think that's a good thing. I think creating tools to help us overcome challenges is a good thing. It opens us avenues for us to do so much more.
Frank, wrap us up here.
Yeah. No, so and I'm not just doing it to sort of wrap, but I think you're both right, and the reason I think you're both right is because technology is a thing. We as humans choose to use it how we choose to use it, right? So here's what the data. The best study out there was a study done in Canada last year, which was able to prove very directly that the age that a person receives their first smartphone is directly correlated to their anxiety and depression level. And is that because phones are bad? Phones are fabulous. Like, I can't imagine living without my phone. But it creates the opportunity for bad habits, right? So the switching I talked about, right? And your daughter is watching like 3 things at once. When we use technology irresponsibly, it has a negative impact on our brain. And I think we're just starting to understand the science behind some of that. And you look at social media. Is social media bad? No. But can social media create a lot of bad outcomes for people? Absolutely. And was it designed to trick our brain? Absolutely. We now know that factually, right? So it was meant to trigger the dopamine response in our brain so that we became addicted. That was designed by behavioral scientists for that purpose. The technology's not bad. Some people designed some bad software with some bad intent. And we fell into that. So I agree. I can't imagine we want to stop technology. We want to go and go and go. And I know that wasn't your point.
No, that wasn't
I know it wasn't at all. But I do think it's the idea of like, if we're going to have this amazing technology, how do we have responsible use of that so that we get the most out of it?
Absolutely.
I'd like to close by making a point, which is simply that entrepreneurship here, I think, is a helpful solution.
Yes.
Because you can't really engage in entrepreneurship without engaging meaningfully with the world and its problems. And that's exactly what all of you are trying to do in your ways. I'll make another point, which is that as this very event shows, and what we'll be doing tomorrow also shows, you are part of a network of people working together. You have each other here right now in a real way. And there's a reason why we're called the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Because once you're part of this network, you're always part of this network. So I really appreciate this panel and your thoughtful comments. I appreciate the work that all of you are doing as young people trying to craft solutions in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals or beyond. And I look forward to great things to come. But for now, let's give a big hand to our panelists for that great conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you again for your thoughtful comments, and panelists, that was a great exchange. And let me also close by offering just one more round of thanks to all 6 of our Innovation Challenge supporters for making these challenges possible for so many young entrepreneurs, and to Aramco, the City Foundation, EY, and the MetLife Foundation, along with Santander. You've made this fascinating conversation possible today. Finally, to all of you here today and the many people who also have been watching the live stream, thank you for joining us, and the thousands of nifty educators around the world in the pursuit to achieve our shared vision, where empowered young entrepreneurs tackle and solve our world's most pressing challenges. We look forward to welcoming you next year for another Global Goals conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JD.